A WWE Championship reign has an expiration date. Well, unless you're Roman Reigns, in that case, you're gonna go on forever because the tribal chief don't lose, oos. But inevitably, there will come a time where that WWE superstar, regardless of how unbeatable they might feel, that they will drop that championship. And it's no different for the crop of champions that we have today, and that's what we're gonna be looking at. We're gonna be looking at every single champion in the WWE, even NXT, and determining who is likely to dethrone them. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Have I kept my promise that we do daily wrestling content? I haven't missed a single day. Go ahead and subscribe, baby. All right, let's start off with Dirty Dominic Mysterio, who is the current NXT North American champion. And what a brilliant decision to put the title on him. It allows him to go on NXT on a semi-full-time basis to develop his in-ring work, to develop his promo skills without getting booed by 30,000 people. And it also allows him to learn how to be a champion. And I think NXT has allowed Dominic to do all of those things. An absolutely brilliant decision by WWE Creative to have Dominic Mysterio go down to NXT and bring that star power that he has garnered on the main roster, along with bringing his mommy along as well. But yeah, his days are numbered because he belongs on the main roster. Ultimately, not only are his days as North American champion numbered, but also his time in NXT. He's down there just for a brief period of time, in my opinion. He is going to be losing to Mr. Mustafa Ali. There's really two people in contention. There is Dragon Lee, who looks like Batman, but then we also have Mustafa Ali. Dragon Lee has already lost to Dominic Mysterio. Meanwhile, Mustafa Ali has been bidding and doing like this kind of like presidential nomination propaganda to try and get a shot at the North American title, a shot that he hasn't gotten. And I do believe that he is the right person to carry forward the mid-card of NXT to allow the newer crop of generation of NXT mid-carders to have banger matches with him. I think he would be a fantastic North American champion, and I think he and Dominic Mysterio can, one, put on fantastic matches, but two, also tell a hilarious story, because both of them are really great comedic storytellers. Hey, speaking of Dominic Mysterio, why don't we go to Deadbeat Mysterio, Rey Mysterio, who's the current main roster United States champion. I think out of everyone that we have on the list today, Rey Mysterio feels like the most transitional champion. Like, this is a championship that is designed to help elevate younger mid-card talent to see whether or not they've got the chops to be a main eventer someday. Rey Mysterio doesn't need this. He's already a Hall of Famer. He has already done it all. He is there to help elevate whoever takes that title off of him. And to me, WWE has made it pretty darn clear that they are at this point obsessed with it having been Santos Escobar. As much as I don't love this, they have set this up pretty well to have maybe a face versus face, master versus student storyline, or perhaps maybe just a full-blown heel turn where the entirety of the LWO turns on Rey Mysterio. I could see both of those things happening. I think the better decision is to have a full-blown LWO heel turn, to have Santos Escobar really try and just demolish and destroy Rey Mysterio and solidify himself as the next United States champion. I don't love this. I think that there are potentially better options out there, but it's pretty clear to me that the writing is on the wall that it's going to be Santos Escobar. Let's go back to NXT for a second, and we have the NXT Women's Championship that is currently held by Miss Tiffany Stratton. And she has been an absolute delight as NXT Women's Champion, putting on pretty decent matches, but also playing a wonderful heel character that you just want to see lose. But yes, she somehow keeps winning match after match after match after match, whether it's through shenanigans or even clean. She has proven herself to be a worthy NXT Women's Champion. And funnily enough, I think the NXT Women's division at the moment is fairly thin, especially when it comes to baby faces. Aside really from Roxanne Perez and maybe Gigi Dolan, there's no one really that is a baby face that could really dethrone legitimately somebody like Tiffany Stratton. Now, they've been planting the seeds, and I don't think it's going to be somebody from NXT. I think it's going to be Becky Lynch. I think Becky Lynch is going to do a Charlotte Flair and spend some time in NXT to help bolster viewership and to help develop the talent talent of the future. Becky Lynch is now in that position where it doesn't matter whether she's on NXT, Raw, SmackDown, she's going to get eyeballs. And I think that she is a worthy person to defeat Tiffany Stratton and carry that NXT title for a few months to help bring viewership to not just the women's division, but all of NXT as well. I see it happening. They've already planted the seeds of her potentially making an appearance in NXT in a couple of weeks as of the making of this video. She has been hinting on social media that she maybe wants to make a go for the NXT Women's Championship, and that NXT Women's Championship is one of the few titles that she has never won in the WWE. So it would be a really full circle victory for her to go back to the place where she started and win the one championship that's eluded her entire career. I see it being Becky Lynch. Next up, we have the Women's Tag Champions, who are Chelsea Green and Piper Nevin. Look, this entire division is an absolute mess. There's really only two real tag teams in this division, which is these two who are barely a tag team, and Caden Carter and Katana Chance. And as much as I would love it to be Caden Carter and Katana Chance, I don't see the WWE putting the belts on them because they just don't really treat this division with any sort of legitimacy. So much so that before Piper Nevin took over, they just fed the newly crowned champions in Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville to Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair for absolutely zero reason, because that win did nothing for Charlotte and Bianca, and it really damaged the legitimacy of their reign to the point where, of course, accidents happened. Sonya Deville was injured. That being said, even though it was a unnecessary victory, I see it being Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair coming together as some sort of superpowers and winning these championships, even though they don't need them. I can totally see WWE putting the tag titles on these two simply for the sake of creating a storyline going into WrestleMania between these two, because WWE has done everything except straight up just tell us that these two are going to have a match at WrestleMania, and I could definitely see a teammates at odds situation as we build to their feud at WrestleMania. They don't need these titles, but hell, I mean, we've seen them beat the tag champions already, so why not? Speaking of tag team champions, let's go to the NXT Tag Team division, where we have Tony D'Angelo and Stax. Where's the gabagool? Throughout the years of NXT Black and Gold, the best thing of NXT Black and Gold wasn't the main event. It was always the tag team division. The tag team division of NXT was always such a treat, delivering some of the best matches, whether it was DIY, The Revival, Authors of Pain. It didn't matter. Like, it was always the must-see match of the show. And the NXT tag titles, unfortunately, have not felt that way in a really long time. We have really, really fun champions, but unfortunately we have a really thin division. Aside from Gallus, maybe? I can't think of another legitimate tag team in NXT. Now, funny enough, they just appeared on NXT, and I have them on here as the Street Profits, but as I'm now saying this, I might have to ask the editor to change this, because yeah, okay, sure, the Street Profits might step down to NXT and win the NXT tag titles. They did have a short little segment backstage with Tony D'Angelo and Stax in the most recent episode of NXT as of the making of this video. But now that I'm thinking about it, I could see it being Los Lotharios in Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, who seem to be going through a entire repackaging and reimagining of their character, and they seem to be coming back with a more serious tone, and those guys are severely talented. They are so good, and if they're going to come back with a legitimate gimmick as opposed to it just being these, I don't know, sexy Latino guys that just want to get women, like if they are there to win championships, I could see them dethroning the family in Stax and Tony D'Angelo. So I'm sorry, Street Profits, I changed my mind. I think it's going to be Los Lotharios. Next up, we have en General Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion. And I think his reign is about to end, and it's going to end in a couple of weeks. This reign has been absolutely legendary. I think he's going to go down as the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, but Gunther has now demonstrated that he is above the Intercontinental Championship. He should be going for world titles at this point. He has done such a fantastic job of bringing prestige back to a title that had none. So I think he's going to be losing to Chatty Daddy Chad Gable. I think they are telling a wonderful long-term story where Chad Gable just somehow continues to defy the odds and beats Gunther in that 5-minute challenge, wins by countout, whatever it might be, and Gunther just cannot put him away. The only way that he can get wins is, let's say, through a disqualification. But I could see maybe at Fastlane or Survivor Series, Gunther dropping the Intercontinental Champion to Chad Gable, really bringing the whole full circle of Oppenheimer versus Barbie, because Barbie did win the box office war, and I could see Barbie winning here again because Chad Gable is enough. Let's look at the NXT Men's Champion in Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes has been a fighting champion, and he continues to beat challenger after challenger after challenger. His reign so far has been an absolute treat. As of the making of this video, he has beaten everyone clean with the exception of one man. And I think that one man continues to haunt Carmelo Hayes because he wants to prove that he can beat him without the intentional or unintentional help of Trick Williams. And I think he's going to continue to try and pursue a match with the Dragon Ilya Dragunov, and that pursuit and obsession to prove that he can beat Ilya without any sort of help is going to be his downfall. I know that it might look from the outside looking in that it's going to be Wes Lee. I don't think so. I think it's going to be Ilya Dragunov. They're already telling a storyline on NXT where Carmelo Hayes is unsure as to whether or not he can actually beat Ilya Dragunov on his own, and he's wanting to prove everyone wrong. He wants to demonstrate that he can, and he's seeking a match with him. And I think in that obsession of demonstrating that he can beat the Dragon, Ilya Dragunov, I think he's going to drop the title. Next up, we have the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions in Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And now that Kevin Owens is back from injury, hooray, I think that we're going to have these guys defend the championships on Raw and on Premium Live events. But it looks like the WWE doesn't want these guys for some reason to have matches, to have feuds with the, I guess, lesser teams of the tag team division, because they seem to be obsessed with only having matches with the Judgment Day. And I think that eventually the Judgment Day is going to come together, and I think it may be with the help of somebody like JD McDonough, who is feuding with Sami Zayn as of the making of this video. And with the help of JD McDonough, I could see the Judgment Day finally putting their internal civil war differences aside and winning some gold together. So whether it's a combination of Dominic, Finn, or Damian Priest, I don't know. It's most likely going to be Finn and Priest, but either way, I think it's going to be some combination of members of the Judgment Day. Next up, we have Io Sky, who I believe is the most disrespected champion in the WWE today. Io Sky won the WWE Women's Championship by cashing in her Money in the Bank briefcase at SummerSlam, but since then, she has truly felt like a third wheel to, again, you guessed it, Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair, because the WWE seems to only see those two as the only viable real main eventers on SmackDown. I see Io Sky losing to, I'm sorry guys, Charlotte Flair. I think it's going to be Charlotte Flair, mostly because I believe that it's going to be Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. And I believe personally that Bianca Belair is better off chasing the championship as opposed to being the gatekeeper and the champion. And I'm sure WWE would love a moment, maybe a WrestleMania Night 1 main event, where Charlotte loses the title to Bianca Belair and Bianca Belair gets all the pyro and the love and she ends the show. I see it plain as day. I know it's already like 8 months away, but I already see it plain as day that this is where they're going to take this. Sadly, I think it's going to be Charlotte Flair defeating Io Sky. Let's look at the current World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. As of the making of this video, Seth Rollins is embroiled in a fascinating storyline with the current challenger and Yakuza anime boss, Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't think Shinsuke Nakamura is going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. I could see the WWE making Shinsuke Nakamura be the nemesis of Seth Rollins for the next several months, with Shinsuke Nakamura constantly targeting the back of Seth Rollins to the point where after several matches with Shinsuke Nakamura, Seth Rollins can legitimately go no more. He is immobile. He cannot walk. And that sets up a perfect opportunity for Senor Money in the Bank to cash in his briefcase and win the World Heavyweight Championship from Seth Rollins. And I think the WWE has already planted the seeds for this to be a very logical conclusion to Seth Rollins' reign. I don't know if it's eventually going to lead to Seth Rollins taking time off to deal with that back injury, if it's a legitimate injury, but they planted the seeds that it's going to be the back that will eventually collapse and force him to lose the championship. And I think this is how it's going to play out. I don't know. I just don't see the WWE giving Nakamura enough love to put the title on him. I wish they would, but I don't see it. Next up, we have Mami Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is the current Women's World Champion, and she has barely had to defend this title. As of the making of this video, her first legitimate contender that we could potentially see beating Rhea Ripley is happening at Payback versus Raquel Rodriguez. I don't know the results as of the making of this video. I don't see Raquel Rodriguez being the one to dethrone Rhea Ripley. In fact, I think Rhea Ripley could go the whole year and hold this up until WrestleMania. And I think that there's really only one person with enough star power to go into WrestleMania, maybe even win the Royal Rumble for the second time, go into WrestleMania and dethrone Rhea Ripley. And I know she was already on this video. I think it's going to be Becky Lynch. I think that the two women's main events are going to be between the four biggest, most popular women superstars from SmackDown, Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair, and on Raw, I think it's going to be Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. They've done a wonderful job of keeping them away from one another, but I think inevitably these two egos on Monday Night Raw are going to have to clash at some point or another, and I think that putting her on NXT for a few months is another way to keep them separate until closer to Royal Rumble or WrestleMania season. I think it's going to be Becky Lynch. Next up, the one you've been waiting for, Roman Reigns, who as of the making of this video has now held the title for well over 1,000 days and still looks like he's not going to be losing this championship anytime soon. I certainly do not see him losing this anytime before WrestleMania. The only event where he could legitimately lose this that is big enough for a event of this magnitude to take place is WrestleMania. It can't be the Rumble. It can't be Survivor Series. Sure shit can't be something like Fastlane. It has to be WrestleMania. And the only man that I could see legitimately taking down Roman Reigns is, of course, the one and only Cody Rhodes. I think they're setting it up for a rematch at WrestleMania 40. It's gonna be Cody, whether you want it or not. I don't think that the internal fight within the bloodline, in terms of how it decided to go with the Jimmy Uso turn, I think it really delegitimized somebody like Jimmy or Jay being the ones to defeat the tribal chief Roman Reigns, and I can't see it being Solo Sikoa. I don't think that he has the charisma or personality to be the top champion as of yet, at least. So I think it's gonna be full circle. Once they get out of this bloodline storyline, it's going to be Cody Rhodes that wins this. If you want maybe some sprinkles of the bloodline, instead of the bloodline helping Roman Reigns win, I could see the entire bloodline, including Solo Sikoa, being the ones that cause Roman Reigns to lose, if you want a little bit of a poetic ending. Anyways, feel free to go off in the comments about how I'm wrong, but get out of here.